The last example of this worksheet is talking about calculating real interest rates. So let's see what we have here given to us. Well, we're given someone buying a bond for $500, and he receives the principal plus the interest of $505 1 year later. So what is this telling us? Well, this tells us the nominal interest rate is going to be 1%. You may be wondering how we got to that answer. Well, the way I want you to think about this is just the gain, right? The percentage gain. So I was left with $505 off of my 500 out of my original 500, right? So that's 5 out of my 500. So my gain, my percentage change ends up equaling 1%, right? 5 over 500 is 1 over 100 or 1%. Now, if we're trying to calculate the real interest rate, we know the real interest rate is nominal minus inflation. And we have two different things that we're trying to calculate here, right? He wants to know what the real interest rate is, but also what was the expected real interest rate. And the expected real interest rate is just nominal minus the expected inflation. So we have to use some of these data that we have to calculate the inflation rate. Well, what was the inflation rate? Remember, the inflation rate is the percentage change in a price level. So what was this percentage change in the price level? The CPI was 150 on January 1 and 154.5 on January 1 of the next year. So 154.5 minus 150 divided by 150 times 100. So that's going to equal 4.5 over 150 times 100, which is going to get us 3%. So I know my inflation rate is equal to 3%. What about my expected inflation rate? Well, the expected inflation rate is my percentage change in the expected price level. All right, well, what was that? Well, it was 150 the year before, but we expected it to be 153. So if that's the case, what ended up happening was the expected inflation rate was only 2%. So Indiana Jones expected the prices to go up by 2%. They actually went up by 3%. So that's the expected inflation right there. Now we can figure out our answers. The real interest rate is nominal minus inflation, which in this case is going to be 1 minus 3, which equals negative 2%. So this part right here would be negative 2%. And then the expected real interest rate is the nominal rate minus the expected inflation rate, which this could be 1 minus 2%, which equals to negative 1%. So right here would be negative 1%. Those are your answers. And the key things to remember, just what your equations are: the real interest rate, nominal minus inflation. Expected real interest rate is nominal minus expected inflation. Don't forget the inflation rate is always the percentage change in the price level, new minus old over old. Well, what was I expecting minus what it was over what it was? That would be what I'm expecting. So we have a 2% change here, a 3% change here. We just plug everything in to get our answers. And that's how you can use a word problem like this to calculate the real interest rates. Again, this was part 3 of a worksheet I gave to my students. I will link the other 2 videos as well as link this worksheet for those of you who may not be in my class that want to use this to study for your inflation topic in your introductory macroeconomics course.